I love your state to the south. You've got great people like Dr. Jim Dobson. You've got great organizations like Young Life. I'm so honored to be able to, in 2 weeks, introduce Jim Dobson when he's introduced into the Radio Hall of Fame in Chicago. What a great testament to this state. To our north, we have one of the great luminous lights in the Roman Catholic Church in the world. Archbishop Chaput is such an amazing man. And you have a wonderful collection of mountains over which Bill Owens conferred on me the title Warden of the Collegiate Peaks. So I'm glad to have that going for me as well. The question I have to ask you is a very simple one. Are you all in? And what's that mean? If you watch ESPN, you might think that's a poker term for one of those kids with the baseball caps on backwards, pushing all their chips to the center and saying all of it's going to ride on one hand. That's really not what I mean. I was listening to Bob Schaefer give an amazing reference to Patrick Henry, and I was reminded of another titan of that age, Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin was not a warrior. He was an essayist, he was a scientist, he was a printer, he was a common man. He was an industrious communicator at every level. And Ben Franklin, after the Declaration had been signed in 1776, was an older man for those years, in his 60s. Of course, he would go on to be at the Constitutional Convention as well. But the founders came to him and they asked him, only you can represent us in France, the most important appointment we have. We need their money, we need their support. Will you do it? Ben Franklin's thinking he has to go on a ship of that time so far across the world, leaving his friends and his family. And he said yes, but he not only said yes, on the day that he left, Ben Franklin went, drew a draft for the 4,000 pounds he had in his savings, and turned it over to the treasury of the young United States, which was broke. That's all in. Are you all in? I want to thank rightchange.com. Fred is all in. He's doing this. I can't even begin to tell you the extraordinary commitment he has made to protecting this country through election. Ed Atzinger and the entire Salem team has always been all in. That's why we three are so proud to work for it. They put themselves out in a way that no other company in American communications put themselves out for principles. Not just profit, though we are profitable, but principles, because they matter. It's why he's in the business. Bob Schaefer is all in, and in a way you don't even begin to know. I was pleased to have Bob on the radio today, and remembered again, was reminded, Bob's not the only one serving his country by running. He has 3 children wearing the colors of the United States, 2 in the Army, 1 at the Air Force Academy. Thank you, Bob, for your service. I know there are other members of the United States military here tonight. Would you stand up and let us thank you for your service to the country, wherever you might be? I'm not easily humbled, but I was today. I got to meet Captain Plum when he came to the studio. And I thought to myself when we were talking that I often hear we have been in Iraq too long, and yet we are not even approaching the number of years that the captain spent in confinement in North Korea to make sure that this country was served well. Captain, what an honor to meet you today. Again, thank you. I'm going to be brief. I'm going to talk about one more person who's all in. It's a sad day for me. My friend and my radio colleague, my fellow blogger, Dean Barnett, died today, and I told you about that on the air. And Dean was born with a terrible condition, cystic fibrosis. And when I first met him a few years ago, introduced by the internet, I got to know him a little bit, and he told me, you know, I live a different way than most people because I'm living on borrowed time. When you've got CF, you're not supposed to get to 20, much less 30, much less 40. And I talked to him about 39 or 38. And so every day he got up, he said, this is the day I'm going to live to the fullest. And even though it would exhaust him to do radio, and even though he loved to play golf and had made enough money and didn't have to do a thing, he loved the fray because he loved America. He loved everything about this country in a way that someone with that kind of a disease does and appreciates it every day. The last time I talked to Dean was the Thursday night of the first presidential debate. I was driving from Cincinnati to Louisville to broadcast from our Louisville affiliate, and I called up Dean, as I often would, and I talked to him for an hour. And you know, Dean was originally a Romney guy, as I was. He became a McCain supporter, wholeheartedly as I am, because he realized this is such an important election for this country. And we talked about strategery and all the different things that went into it. And I said, can I call you after each debate? It's a little bit later in the East. He said, oh, you can call me anytime, anywhere. I'll come on and talk. And he did that debate and the next debate. And the last time I talked to him, he had to fill in for me on Friday after another debate when I'd lost my voice, going late doing the 6-hour show. And Dean was on the radio on Friday, and he talked for 2 hours, became sick, went to the hospital, went in intensive care, never came out. Didn't get a chance to talk to him again. But you know what? He died doing what he loved doing, which was talking about the greatness of this country and the importance of electing John McCain. That's all in. Now, what I'd like to ask you to do when I came here in 2002, and Bob Schaefer referred to this, I was broadcasting from KNUS and talking to Wayne Allard and Dick Wadhams and great people around the state. And indeed, Wayne Allard was 7 points down or 5 points down on election morning. Denver Post poll, and I'm looking, what am I doing in this state? And 5 points down, and Dick Wadhams said, oh, that's just the Denver Post poll. They can't pull the West face. And I said, what's the West face? I don't know what the West face, but it's true. Bob might be behind every poll, doesn't matter. It's that way every time in Colorado. I've followed it for 4 years. But I'll tell you one thing, he needs money. He needs your money, and he needs it tonight. If every person of the 2,500 people that were here tonight gave $10 when you got home at bobschaeferforsenate.com, $25,000 gets a lot of people to the polls, but I'm thinking bigger than that. If you each went home and you dug deep and you went in all in at $100, you'd have $250,000 of additional resources. And if you went to 400 in one night, you could raise $1 million. And that's going to mean a lot, not just for Bob, but for Mike Kaufman, who's such a great American. Thank you, Mike. Good to see you again tonight. Marilyn Musgrave is fighting the fight of her life out there. We've got to keep Marilyn in the Congress. And most importantly, Bob's organization and John McCain's organization are working hand in glove. If you go home and you contribute to Bob, you're contributing to every one of those candidates and to the turnout operation. It will get spent and it will be effective, and Colorado will be red, and we need it to be red in a week. So please think about this. We do what we love to do. We have an opportunity to do this day in and day out, and we do it because people like you are willing to sit there and talk about it, but it's not a job. And you don't listen because you're being remunerated for it. It's a calling. We love to do it, and you're here because you know it's important, and we appreciate that very, very much, but it's not nearly as important as a week from now. It is a pivotal election. It is a crossroads. We appreciate your being here tonight, but as you go home, don't go home happy that you heard something that made you sit up straight, because what you do between now and then and what you contribute between now and then matters much more than coming out tonight. Gentlemen, come back up and we'll take some questions from these folks. Thank you very much.